It's strange how the world and life changes, huh? When we're children, we kind of just take it for granted that we're going to be together, that all these kids that you're growing up with are going to be with you for the rest of your life. You just don't realize that people grow up and people move on and people, they get married, they have their own families, and they just have their own lives. And so I guess these are ways of God teaching us that nothing is permanent. The only thing that is constant, ironically, the only constant in life is change. And the only certainty about life is death. As ironical as that may seem, that is the truth. But I don't look at death as the end. I look at birth and death just as doorways. I very strongly believe that God is there. I have a lot of faith in God. I believe that He is with us, that we're never alone, that after we pass on or pass over into the next world, things will be a lot clearer. That's what I hope, anyways. I believe that we've all this part of this nostalgia that I feel. I feel that my soul has lived the past on other worlds, perhaps other galaxies, and has had all kinds of adventures and all kinds of relationships and all kinds of loves and hates and desires and so many things, experiences. Someday, I believe, after I pass on, that I will remember all those things. I think it would be very cruel of God if after we die, we're in the spiritual state. It's very cruel if we're not allowed to remember all our lives, and I think we are, because I don't believe that God is cruel. It's only during our life here on this planet that in the physical form that we don't remember these things. I'm looking forward to it someday. As I was telling God even earlier, that I'm a little sad that I don't have time anymore to do things. It's just work. And something inside me tells me that it's going to keep getting worse. So I pray to God to help me, because I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be in a situation that I'm all the time just working. Workaholic. No, I don't want that. Money is important, yes. There's no doubt about that. But that's not my calling. That's not what I'm here for in this world. I was reading this book right now, Embraced by the Light, by Betty Eadie. It's a lovely book, which she talks about how we're supposed to love. The first thing we're supposed to do is love God more than anything else. One of my favorite verses from the Bible is this: love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, with all thy strength, and love thy neighbor as thyself. So these two verses tell you so much, don't they? They tell you the sequence of love. The first sequence is God. The first in the sequence. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart. So that means that God has to be the number one in your life, and that's another thing I learned in the Jesuit guide, is that God has to be the number one. So when we put other people, whether it's spouses or friends or children or parents or our work, our jobs, when we put those things in the number one position of our lives, when we put them on the pedestal, that is what I believe God says, that thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not worship graven idols, because I don't believe that we are supposed to put other people, no matter who they are, above God in our in our love sequence, so to say. So number one has to be God. The number two, according to Betty Eady, is yourself. So after God, the person that you're supposed to love the most is yourself and not others. Yes, Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. Now, why would he say that, as thyself? So obviously it's implied that, even he's implied that you have to love yourself more. You can love the others as you love yourself, but after God, the second person in the sequence is you. Okay? And then the third is your neighbor. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And I also believe that when Jesus said to love your enemies, that in itself had a separate meaning into it. When you love your enemies, you're not supposed to really expect anything back, because that person is your enemy, right? So I feel that another thing that Jesus is trying to tell you is, don't expect others to love you back. So these things are a little difficult to practice in life, but believe me, it's going to relieve a lot of pain if you choose to put God number one in your life. See, because God, he may disappoint you, in the sense that he may not answer your prayer immediately or the way you want it. But one thing you can be sure of, without any doubt, is that God loves you. God loves you. He's made you. He's your Heavenly Father, your Heavenly Mother.